Good evening and welcome to the Gridiron Crew podcast with exceptionally smooth delivery. An NFL podcast made in Scotland by NFL lovers. You are listening to and watching the Review Crew, and I am your host, Brian, the conscience of Cleveland Donlan. Well, folks, it is week 15, and not only for many has it been the first week of your fantasy playoffs, it is also the wonderful festive time of the year where we get to enjoy lots of traditions come out at this time of the year. Things like, winding down in your work as you build up towards the Christmas holidays, crappy Christmas films on the telly, and the Jets being removed from playoff contention. So it is time to get stuck into week 15, guys. Now, remember, like, subscribe, follow us. You can find us on X, on YouTube, on Instagram, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Now, as always, I am joined by four fabulous crew members tonight, up from my usual quantity of three. Now, first, he's had enough 2 weeks yet. We've been gentle with him. But now we don't actually know whether he's going to be miserable this week or not yet, because he doesn't know if it's going to be Victory Tuesday or if somehow he's going to need to conscience losing to Seattle. It is Kev. How are you doing, mate?
All right, Brian. I'm good, thanks, mate. I'm just glad that the Eagles don't play tonight, and I don't have to be on here for a third week in a row losing. But yeah, let's be positive. I'm sure we'll get back to winning ways tonight.
Well, hopefully, Mr. Hurts is ready to go, gets over whatever illness he's been battling for the last couple of days. And I dare say, if he is, surely, this week you turn it around. Now, he had a well-earned break last week, but sadly, his team took this week off. It is Gav. How are you doing, mate?
Very well. It's good to be back, and a much-needed break in the fantasy playoffs for me this week, because it's not been so good for the guys in the real world. But yeah, looking forward to talking about all things not Giants this week.
Excellent. Now, so from one team that's taken a week off to another team that's taken the last fortnight off, it is the cheesiest of cheeseheads. It is Liam. How are you doing, sir?
Well, I'm good. Another fun-ish weekend of football, kind of. If you exclude a game, but yeah, grand. I'm good.
Now, we're moving on actually to a special guest. Somebody, long-time listeners for the crew will remember seeing and hearing this man's dulcet tones in the past, but he's not been on in a wee while. Now, normally, when somebody asks to come back on after a period of absence, it's after some momentous victory that they are looking to bask in the reflected glory of their NFL heroes. So why a Vikings fan has asked to come on this week is entirely beyond me. Shaney, how you doing, mate?
Miserable.
This is like we said it to Kev last week. We say it to you this week, mate. Treat it as therapy. It's all okay. This is a safe space to be devastated.
I know. I am in the heat of the moment. I agreed to come back on this show, and I will honour that now. But yeah, it's not been a fun weekend. Unlike Liam said, it sort of was.
See, at least Shaney gives us his unabashed honesty, the fact that it's been utterly miserable. But that is our panel for this evening, folks. So, as always, we will get going with our kick-off question to warm things up. Now, since we were talking about the Vikes, we're going to keep talking about the Vikes. Well, no, actually, that's a lie. We're not. We're going to talk about the Bengals. Now, some of you may have seen the clip circulating of Bengals backup quarterback. Yes, that's right, Shane. It was a backup quarterback that beat you. Jake Browning telling the Vikings organization that they should have never fucking cut him. And it's hard to argue with when a man puts you to the sword like that. Now, we'll talk more about the actual game later because I'm not letting Shaney off the hook since he's back with us. But the question to get us going this week is, who is that player that your team should have never gotten rid of? Now, it could be somebody that you traded away. It could be somebody that you maybe passed over in the draft. So somebody that was with your team and moved on, or never wound up coming to you, even though you had the chance, that you utterly regret and you wish your team had fixed it. Now, I'm going to scoot in first because it's going to be dead easy and predictable. Baker, come home. That does me, and I'm not going to gibber about Baker all week, I promise, because we'll save talking about Baker for later in the show. So, to kick us off with this one, Kev, who is that player that you either wish your team had picked up or they traded away and you really wish they'd stayed another day? Yes, that was Poison Reference.
I'm going to say Bernard Williams.
Ooh.
I don't know if any of you guys know who that is. No.
Nope.
Nah.
And by the way, I'm joking. Bernard Williams is the 51-year-old offensive tackle that the Eagles just cut this year. He's been on the roster for 29 years without playing, and I think
Surely you give him one snap.
Rudy.
It's obviously some sort of administrative error. They've never cut him, and he's been on the roster this whole time. And somebody realised it this year and cut him. But no, that's not really who I'm saying.
I hope he's been getting wages.
That would be the best if he was getting paid, but I don't think somehow he was, or they would have noticed a lot sooner, I'm sure. No, I've got to go for Justin Jefferson. The Eagles picked up Jalen Reagor at number 21 overall in the draft. One pick before the Vikings picked up Justin Jefferson. And yeah, I think you look at the career trajectories of the two guys and you wonder how on earth that we could go and pick up Reagor ahead of Justin. And I think actually that Howie Roseman said it's like possibly his biggest regret, and it's a moment that he wishes he could have back. And I would say, in my time supporting Eagles, that's definitely the one that got away.
So, and that's see for Howie of all people as well.
I know.
Howie's normally pretty flawless. But
yeah. I think he actually said that was a learning moment for him. He took that as a learning experience, and he said that at the time he chose Reagor because he was looking for a wide receiver to play out wide, and Jefferson was looked at as more of a slot receiver, so that's why he plumped for Reagor, and he said that ever since then he's thought, nah, do you know what, just pick the best player. Who's the best player of the two, and we'll take him. So maybe some of the pickups that we've made in the draft since then have maybe been down to the fact that he's learned his lesson.
An interesting one. It's what we'll save it for a draft show, because it's a great question. What should your draft strategy be? Did you just go best player available? Do you focus on specific position groups, or do you do what Bill Belichick does and trade down for some Division 4 nose tackle when you really need a quarterback? Right, okay. Thank you very much, Kev. Gav, what about yourself, mate? Who is the one that got away, the one you wish you kept? Who have the Giants got rid of, and why is Tommy DeVito making it all better?
Well, it's probably thrown a bit too much shade to say Kadarius Toney is not the answer to this question. But no, I guess the spicy take in this one would be let's go back to the 2018 draft and the Giants picking number 2. So this is one that was laden with quarterbacks. As you know, Brian, we had Mr. Mayfield in there going number 1 overall. And with number 2, the Giants take Saquon Barkley. However, down at number 7, Josh Allen. And obviously, Giants would go on to pick up Danny Dimes next year at number 6, one spot higher. I mean, Saquon's been a servant, but actually, I think if you look at the trajectory of both men's careers, and also the kind of the life expectancy of an NFL running back, I think it's a controversial one, but I'm saying actually, Josh Allen in that 2018 draft would have been a good pick at number 2.
That's so interesting, because it's like fan favourite, Saquon, absolute fan favourite, or franchise, pillar of the franchise to build around. Who even was the Giants quarterback in 2018?
It was still Eli.
Right, okay.
Yes, it was still Eli, and Eli would start the following season, but they would bring in Jones partway through.
Oh, what could have been? Right, Shaney, we'll come to you, sir. Who's the do you know? I know exactly what you're going to say. I suspect I know what you're going to say. Who's the one that got away?
not so much a one that got away, but one that we let away. At the time, at the start of the season, I thought it was time to ship Dalvin Cook. And he's not had a great time at the Jets. He's not really getting the opportunities because of Breece Hall. But look at our running back room right now. Alexander Mattison has just not lived up to the expectations. He was a great backup. He's not a number one runner. Ty Chandler had a good weekend on Sunday there. So hopefully that's our first 100-yard rushing game of the year. Did you know that? All year.
Right now, do you mean right? So this is where this would totally box my brain. Do you mean like individual player with 100 rushing yards, or do you mean 100 total rushing yards?
Do you know? I don't know off the top of my head, but I actually think it's a lot.
There's one for everybody on Twitter.
We can fact check that and come back to it. But it's hard to imagine that if you put Dalvin Cook on a 1 year that he was happy with, and we kept him, that he couldn't have done better up until now. It would have. So would have been. I thought it was time to let him go, but in hindsight, it probably was. But the way injuries have gone and the way Mattison hasn't performed, would have been nice to still have him.
And you would have got another year out of the Falcon Hoof jersey. Yeah,
my jerseys would still be valid.
Oh, that's okay. I see that. It's always a tricky one because running backs are such, as Gav kind of alluded to, the shelf life of a running back. That they don't age gracefully. Like they have a point where they just go, and you're now awful. So it's you want to sell before you get there. And to be fair, is Cook ever going to get anything back after this year in New Jersey? I'd hazard, I guess, no. Nobody's going to give him any money anymore. So yeah, he's well. Oh, what could it be? Right, Liam, round this one off for us, mate. Who the wonderful people of Green Bay? Who is the one that you either let slip through your fingers or that you didn't take advantage of being able to grab when you had the chance?
So I was kind of thinking about that, about this, and I was going to go down the kind of draft line because apparently we missed on TJ Watt. Didn't take him or Higgins when we didn't draft wide receivers for Rodgers. But I think I'm going to go back to another wide receiver when we let Adams go to the Raiders. One, because I just bought Adams' jersey and then he got traded. So that was great. We just decided to cut bait with another great receiver just for Rodgers to have no one to throw to for a season before he left. So that was good. Good ploy.
So what you're telling me, Liam, is that you have concerns about Green Bay's attitude to wide receivers?
Not so much now. I'm actually quite happy now.
Actually, in the past,
we'll come on to that later, but yeah.
See, this is where we should really have had studs on if we were going to talk wide receivers. I genuinely think anybody could get a game for Kansas City at wide receiver at the moment. Right, okay, thank you very much, gents. We are going to get going. We're going to get stuck into actually reviewing some of the matches that we have seen over the weekend. Now, I promised that I was going to make him dwell in misery and I was going to make him face up to it, and I am. So, Shaney, the floor is yours. Talk to us all about your beloved Vikes at those pesky Bengals.
I can't believe you're starting with me for this.
Yes,
Let's get it out of the way then. So, I only caught the fourth quarter and overtime of this game. The rest of it, I was getting text updates from you lot, and it seemed to be going quite well. We entered the fourth quarter 17-3 up. All right. We'd had some shaky interceptions, a few sacks on Nick Mullins, but I thought, it's all right. Brian Flores and the D, they'll get us through. 3 touchdowns later to the Bengals. Well, 2 touchdowns later, and it was 17-all. Brilliant. And then we put one in with, 3 minutes something left on the clock.
Yeah,
I thought, just hold them. Thanks for having exact figures available. I thought, we'll hold them a field goal. Just hold them a field goal, no problem. We'll come back to field goals.
Yes,
and then who was it? T. Higgins made an absolute belter of a grab. 24 each, overtime. And then we talk about both teams got a possession, didn't they?
Yep.
And then it was next team scores. And what are we? We come up, third down, third in inches. The chains were out, and we attempt a tush push at what would have been not a murder, not a really difficult field goal, but it would have been about 50 yards or something, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You got the figure there, Brian?
Not for that, but it wasn't far out.
Pushing 50 yards, and
At 52,
the
I think.
Vikings-
Yeah, it was at the Cincy 42 when you failed the
So
tush push.
we don't have a great track record at winning games on field goals, but Greg Joseph was the man that bucked the trend. I wanted to kick it, but Kevin O'Connell thought brotherly shove, and it turned out to be a brotherly pat on the back. At third down. I know, brotherly massage. So fourth down, and you can see on the sideline, Brian Flores is screaming at Kevin O'Connell to kick it. You could probably hear me in Minneapolis screaming from Scotland to kick it. And we go for another brotherly pat on the back and do not make it, and absolutely throw the game away. And I think, so I read this stat. I'll need to find my source again on this. I think it was ESPN, but that's 3 out of the last 4 games. We've been in a winning position with 2 minutes to go and lost.
See, that's the kind of stuff that I find really interesting, because that's like the Browns for years being in that position, and then Brown's going to Brown and we lose, and there's all that. The mental side of it, that like digging yourself out of a hole. It's the kind of things like, I'll say it because it needs to be said. It's the kind of things that like historically teams like the Steelers would do, or teams like the Patriots would do. When they look, it seems like for most of the season, the Eagles have been doing, where they look like they're in a really dicey spot, and then they just find a way to win. Or when you are a Vikings fan, or laterally a Browns fan for a long time, you find a way to lose when you've got victory assured.
It wasn't easy to lose that. We, I know, we pulled that one out the bag. You had to let them come back, let the Bengals come back in with 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns. You had to have a porous defense that collapsed in the fourth quarter, and we are, going into the game, I think we were number 1 defense in the league, certainly top 3.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You have to have terrible play calling from Kevin O'Connell on that last drive. And how are you not making inches? Why are you doing a brotherly shove, having a wide receiver doing the shove when Ty Chandler is on the game of his life and he's got 4 inches to make? Just, it was an absolute tragedy of errors from us. And I've got beyond incensed, like disappointment, and I'm now critical disappointment. I'm analysing my disappointment in great depth, and it's just Vikings, isn't it? It's murdered being a Vikings fan.
This is why you can't have nice things. But I think what we do need to acknowledge is that first quarter, 7-3 Vikings. Second quarter, 0-0. Third quarter, 10-0 Vikings. Then Shaney turned on his television. 21-7, 3-0. So all this blame for Kevin O'Connell, all this blame being passed out. If you had kept the TV off, all I'm saying is it could have went so differently.
There is one other. If you don't want to blame Kevin O'Connell, that's fine. We can blame Kirk Cousins, right? How dare he get injured just when I started to warm to him a wee bit? And in fairness to him, you don't lose games like that with Kirk Cousins. Well,
no,
I hate to say this, but I actually miss him a wee bit.
Oh, right. Could somebody get T-shirts made of that? Could we get that? Mugs.
It's definitely going to be clipped for X. That's a tip for X right there.
For posterity. I suppose, right, so tell you what, so this was my big question mark of the game, and it is all about that brotherly shove at the end, because it has to be. That's the play that lost the game. Chandler was at 132 yards.
Yep.
132 rushing yards. It's 4 inches.
Yep.
Why? That's like, that's the bit that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, even put him in at quarterback.
Yeah,
Liam
the wind
him
could
in
blow
position.
you over. The wind could blow you over 4 inches, but no.
Oh,
'Cause he
yeah, it
only-
was something else. Although you know, I'll put this out to the other guys because you were obviously very disappointed at your Vikings. But I am going to say that even as a Browns fan, I'm quite enjoying the Jake Browning experiment that's going on in Cincy. I don't know how other people are feeling about that. This guy's came in and he's playing really well. Like who knew that he was Santa? Because again, it's a point that Stu has laboured loads on the pod. How he was really, really devastated and upset about how Cincinnati didn't address backup quarterback, right position. I mean, and Browning's actually stepped up. So, well, he's not. He's still a backup QB, but he's better than most backups have been. So I don't know. I don't know what you guys have been thinking about the game in general. The Bengals managing to pull something out. Now, obviously, it was backup QB v backup QB. And it was two teams with very similar records going into the game. So, you know, I mean, they were both in, despite the issues, they're having good spots. But I don't know, what are the big takeaways of some of the rest of these had for kind of watching the bits of that you've seen?
I think I was going to say that bit on Browning there was, I think the final quarter he was without Chase. I think Chase went out with a shoulder injury.
Yeah, Chase
and
went
he
out.
Okay, not a bad second having Higgins there, but fair play to him. Put up 21 points in the fourth, down your top wide receiver.
T. Higgins, 4 receptions for 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. It's no bad going for your number 2.
It's cast, isn't it?
Sorry, Dan. Yeah.
No, I think it's all about the cast. So I guess it's not all situations are created equally. So if you look at a team like the Bengals that have been consistently performing well, yeah, I mean losing Joe Burrow is a huge loss, but you do have the cast of talent on both sides of the ball that's going to keep you in a situation where you can remain competitive. So, I mean, I guess we put a lot of the value on the QB position and rightfully so, but there's a whole roster of other guys there out to help and make that thing work for them.
Joe Mixon absolutely stepped up in that game, to be fair.
Joe Mixon's actually been on a wee bit of a tear the last 2 weeks. Even well, 47 yards, but there were 47 hard-earned yards, I suppose, is what you would maybe say with Mixon in that game. Kev, what were you going to say, mate?
I was going to say I saw the interview with Browning after the game, and it came across as a guy who's really, really at home in that squad. Like, even although he's not the starter, he seems to have good chemistry with a lot of the guys. I think they trust him, and I think that he's kind of awareness of the offense is great for a backup. And I think it was a bit harsh on the Vikings, obviously, but the touchdown T. Higgins scored was incredible. I think I was worthy of winning any game. Sorry, Shaney. And when Browning was talking about it, he said how I just chucked it up there. And T's made the catch and turned it into a touchdown. And I think it's probably just for me the Bengals just seem more maybe together in the face of the adversity that they've been going through lately.
Yeah, and I think I think that actually is a lot of it. As much as both teams have suffered injuries, because obviously we know about Cousins going down, and then we've had the kind of the roller coaster of Dobbs' meteoric ascension to glory and his equally catastrophic descent into misery again. And then Mullins comes in, and Mullins, to be fair, by all accounts, played a good game. But yeah, the togetherness, that mental side of the game, I think, is what really came out in that the Bengals found a way to. Sorry, Shane. The Vikings found a way to lose that game. The Bengals didn't find a way to win it. At the end of the day, when you go, when you hold a team to a 3-and-out straight off the rip in overtime, you need to finish that. You can't hold a team to 3-and-out and let them back in. But that's the way it is. It's, to be fair, we're still talking about two teams that have got playoff aspirations, however likely or unlikely they may be. Vikes are sat there 7-7. Bengals are 8-6. The AFC North is an absolute monster of a division this year, which gives me great anxiety. More about that later. We're going to move on. So we'll move on. It's our second homer one of the evening, chaps. Liam, Now, I approve of this matchup purely because Baker was awesome. And for the benefit of those who are listening and not watching, as we are seeing Shaney don his Green Bay Sucks patented Vikings colour cap, Liam, talk us through it, mate. It wasn't a great... Well, do you know, it wasn't a bad evening for your boys, but it wasn't a good one.
So, well, I thought I'd start that with your fandom of Baker. A nice stat for you. He went 381 yards for 4 touchdowns, and he was the first QB ever to have a perfect passer rating in Lambeau Field. So that's another fandom fact for you to add to your
Rodgers never
list.
do it?
Sorry?
Did Rodgers never do that?
No, it's a quarterback going into Lambeau Field.
Oh, right, yeah.
Hey, Rodgers still good. He can come back with the Jets.
I put that in more context. I think week 13 and 14 of this season, he only made 48% of his completions. So yeah, just turned up this weekend. So, but yeah, it was. Thankfully, it was not about our offense. It was just all about our defense being horrendous. We just couldn't get off the field. Basically, was the summary of the game. I think every single drive, I was sitting there watching the game. Just you're like, another third down. Yep, they're going to convert it. Second and long. Yep, they'll convert that. So it was just horrendous to watch, and for our defense, I think on third down, the Tampa converted 7 of 11 third downs, 1 of 1 fourth downs. That was just basically the summary of the game. And it was, for once, we actually kept Rashad White, relatively in check. We only gave up 99 yards on the ground after last week when we gave up 200 yards to Barkley and Tommy DeVito. So that was a plus, but we just couldn't defend the pass. So yeah, it was just unfair. White could have made it worse. He slid on the last play of the game, I think, when he could have got another touchdown, basically.
Yes, he should have got another touchdown. So he's a disgruntled White fantasy owner. And
then another part, let's say, they're passing all over us. Godwin, who's had a bit of a maybe off season for him, I suppose.
Yeah.
Had 10 receptions for 155 yards. I think earlier he's not gone above 8 all season. Before that, he was on the injury report coming into the game. So yeah, we're just making it easy. And I found some other stat that, to be fair, the only context I've got is the average for the season. So apparently he, on average, had just over 4 yards of separation on each play that he caught. The season average for most players is 2 yards. So he's doubled that in basically compared to an average wide receiver, which is pretty horrendous. But yeah, we just couldn't get off the field. Tampa Bay punted once, which was in the second quarter. I think overall they went field goal, fumble, touchdown, punt, field goal, touchdown, 3 touchdowns to end it. And I think the drive right at the second of just before the halftime, where we gave up the field goal, kind of summarised our play, where we got into 3rd and 3. They converted that, and then later on in the drive, they're 40 or something like that, and they're on the 2nd and 29, and then they got 24 yards from Godwin, so to hit the field goal. So yeah, it was a bad day at the office on defense, and now it's just they're all shouting at rooftops about our defensive coordinator now, whether he should stay or go, Joe Barry. So we shall see. But 3 games left, you can't really see him moving on, I don't think, at this stage of the season. Yeah, it was not a nice watching defense. But on better sides, quarterback play was actually all right. Our side of the ball. Love did pretty well. Love made some good throws. It was kind of encouraging overall. He made some nice, in the Reed touchdown was a great throw for the touchdown in the corner of the end zone. And we did, I suppose we're coming into the season, we've kind of said this many times on the podcast about seeing Love make progress, make our offense, our wide receivers that we touched on earlier, kind of shown progress to kind of step up. And to be fair to them, they did all right. You know, I couldn't really complain about the offense. It was just our defense. But
it was when it was that. It was, as you mentioned yourself, mate, you had that bit where, you know, I don't normally do this, but I'm even going to run through the plays because it was that mental. So we're starting up. We are 1st and 10 at the Green Bay 33. Mayfield gets sacked for a loss of 9. So we're 2nd and 19. Incomplete pass. They pick up a holding penalty. So they go back another 10. And then you're 2nd and 29. And they convert.
Yep.
That's just like, it says so much about discipline and keeping Crew down, because that it just screams to me that the defense just switched off.
I know.
They just went, right, we are second and 29. This drive is dead. Even and that was what they 26 seconds ago, so they probably weren't even expecting their offense to get back on the field, or their offense to get back on the field and do anything other than just kneel the half out and be done with it.
Yeah, and I never thought. Yeah, I never thought I'd be jealous of a Browns fan with their defense. I don't think so.
Aye, elite defensive.
But yeah, it's been like this a lot of the season. Even last week, I know Gav thankfully missed last week for my save me. But we like even last week we got a last minute touchdown for like 2 minutes left on the board, and we just let them, the Giants, run down the field and get the winning score. So it's not been pleasant to watch in defense. But we'll take the offense traveling up and down the field a bit, and apparently we've still got a 90% chance of playoffs if we win out the next 3 games. So that's just easy peasy. That'll be fine.
Well, you would honestly think that we compared notes. So on that exact note, because your next game, and this is even more convenient that Shaney's on, your next game is against the Vikings. So, sorry, your Lions.
No, we're Panthers.
Sorry, your Panthers. Then it's the Vikings. Sorry, Vikings is the New Year's Day game. How is that game fundamentally a playoff decider? Do we think that is fundamentally a game that's going to decide whether or not either of your teams stands a chance? Now, obviously, you're not getting anywhere near the division. Lions have got it wrapped up, but Vikings are sat there 7-7. You're sat there 6-8. Bears have fallen away to 5-9. Although they've been looking better now that Fields is back, but less about them. Is this New Year's Day game realistically going to be the one? Because we look at the other games. Vikings have got a double header with Detroit. You've got the Panthers, which surely to Christ you can beat Carolina. And then the Bears' last game of the season, when the Bears are probably done and dusted. They're probably not going to be running anything serious, so you should be picking that one up. And let's say the Vikings split with the Lions. Let's say they split. They take them. They take the Vikings and they take the Lions in Minneapolis, but they lose in Detroit. All of a sudden, that game on big rivalry. Where even is it? Is it at Lambeau or is it?
No, it's at Minnesota.
So, is that your season? There's the question. Is that your season wrapped up in one game, basically?
In essence, yes, but I won't lie. I've got the total fear about next weekend against Carolina since they won this weekend. So, but yeah, obviously you expect us to win next. Well, you'd like to think we would win next weekend. And yeah, obviously we have to, I think, basically win out. I think to have a chance. And to be fair, though, in some ways, I kind of touched on this a couple of episodes ago as well. Do we want to make? And that sounds crazy as a fan. Do we want to make the playoffs? We've now fallen back, so we've now got the 11th pick in the draft, I think, around about that mark. So do we just take that pick or round about that pick and just build on next season? Because realistically, if we get into the playoffs, we're there, great. It'd be amazing to be there, but we're not in the mix to go far. And this was never a season for that. It was never a season to really push on. We're never going to the Super Bowl or anything like that, realistically. So.
Can I ask though, Liam, see with the amount of rookies and second-year players that you've got, do you not think it would be good to get post-season experience for those guys this year rather than just trying to get 4 or 5 picks higher in the draft?
I know. These arguments all around. I suppose I think it was a fact they put on the commentators. I think we are the team who've thrown the ball to the most rookies in a season, or different rookies in a season. Some fact about that, I think. So
I think it was like the most rookie touchdowns scored in a game by a team or something.
And to be fair, we've also dealt with a lot of injuries. Like obviously we were without Jones, we've been without Watson, and we lost Musgrave as well. Our tight end we drafted in the second round, whereas this game Kraft came in and put on a good show as really he was coming in as our second tight end in the season. So. It's on offense. The weapons are getting better and better. So Love seems to be okay, do we crown him yet as the long-term fix? Who knows? But that's definitely for next season. We'll see. I think you can only be positive from what we were looking for from the season. We've definitely shown progress there. So, but whether we can get a defense to help out would be useful, shall we say?
See, as a fan of
tell you
someone
what,
that's improved to a frustrating 5-9 record in the last month, I think the thing is you've got to say that I get when fans want to kind of look at the draft, but when playoffs becomes a consideration and the state of the NFC, the Packers are alive and well in that
Yep.
playoff conversation.
Yeah.
I think you've got to play for extra games.
Oh no,
in
yeah.
January.
Oh no, yeah. I would rather be in the playoffs, but I suppose it's an interesting thought. I suppose the other thing, going to the draft picks, talking about a defense, we've invested loads of first round picks into that defense, and look where it's got us currently. So, so yeah, that just goes to show you can have great draft picks, and it doesn't always pan out. So yeah, you'll take the wins where you can get them. If you can get into the playoffs, great. But we shall see.
Well, do you know? So right, Shane, we'll kick a kind of similar question to you, mate. So you're right. Currently sat 20th in the draft, 7-7. Three potentially very, very tricky games to close the season for the Vikings. It's not an easy way to close out your year at all. The Lions, yeah, they've had their issues in the road, but at home they're excellent. And Green Bay have shown in flashes that they can be a really good team. Would you take and the Vikings' injury issues, well documented, all the rest of it, would you take 3 losses to see yourself move up and up and up, probably quite close to a top 10 slot in the draft next year?
Absolutely
Would you possibly look
not.
at picking up? Okay, you're not going to get Caleb.
No.
Possibly looking at picking up Drake May, Jaden Daniels, one of these other QBs, because it's a QB heavy draft, and who knows what's going to happen to Kirk?
We are 7-7, right? If our future for this season is in our own hands. If we win out, we are in the playoffs. I want to go to the playoffs. I want to go to the playoffs every season, no matter what. The draft is that. It's a draft. You can do as much research as you want, but you might pick a Trey Lance. Okay? I want to go to the playoffs. I want to beat the Packers. I want to beat the Lions twice. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm here for the football, not for next year's draft class.
See, this is why we're all fans and not GMs. So, no, I say that. I think I'm a GM get caught saying that stuff it. We're actually gearing up these games to boost our draft choices with 3 picks. I think they'd possibly be out of a job quite quick. And they'd probably find a new job in Cleveland. Right, moving on. Thank you very much, mate. Gav, we are coming to you. You're not getting a home run game this week, mate, because frankly the Giants game wasn't all that interesting. So, well, it was good. I suppose it was good if you were a Saints fan. So instead of that, we're going to go to what I think many people were anointing before the week started as game of the week. It was Buffalo at Dallas. Gav, this was a hell of a game for a lot of very interesting reasons, and this is where Kev starts to feel much better about what we're talking about because he just gets to sit there and be happy.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, I think that this was actually on Fox. It was actually America's game of the week last night, and it was a heck of a game, but probably not in the way that we were expecting. I mean, this was just an old-fashioned dominant win for the Bills. I mean, 31-10 was the final, but I mean, the Cowboys didn't even find the end zone until the last 3 minutes of the game. It was 21-3 at halftime. And I think the real story here is overall, the Bills 266 yards on the ground. I mean, for once, as much as I was gushing earlier, we're not talking about Josh Allen tonight. It was the James Cook show. I mean, 179 yards on the ground, over 25 carries. He also had the receiving touchdowns. I think he came in at 221 total yards for the game. As Kev, I think we were chatting about just before we went on air, they set the tone early. It had, I guess, what was almost like a rugby ruck type of play where I think they dragged the Cowboys for about 10 yards and just in that scrum of bodies. And it was like that the whole way. I mean, it was actually Latavius Murray with the open touchdown. He's only 3 yards out, but again, he seemed to have been wrapped up for no gain and just kept driving the legs, powered in. And the Bills really just kicked on from there. I have to say that the Cowboys, they had one turnover, so they didn't make a ton of negative plays throughout, but they didn't really get any momentum. I mean, Dak, overall, he was 21 of 34, but only for 134 yards on the day. Cowboys only managed to actually lay a glove in Josh Allen once. Even at that, get a wee bit of generosity from the refs as he kind of blew the play dead as he was escaping from the sack.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've seen the Bills. I think they probably returned a fork to us in the post for the performances over the last 3 weeks because, they are very much alive and well in the playoff hunt now. I mean, obviously, I think that really started, first of all, when they went to the Eagles, and they lost in overtime, but I mean, they really gave Kev a bit of a scare. And then obviously since then, they've gone to Kansas City, picked up the win. And I mean, last night, if you're going to say there's a bit of luck with the win at Arrowhead, there was no arguing who the better side was last night. And what's really interesting now in that AFC East is to actually look at the running for the two teams there. So the Bills in the next 2 weeks have got the Chargers and the Pats. Now, Miami, on the other hand, have got to play a very hungry Dallas side, and then they go to the Ravens. And that sets up a head-to-head between the Dolphins and the Bills at Hard Rock in Week 18. So there's still, I mean, I think that the Bills are looking good for the playoffs. They might still need a couple of results to go their way, but to actually get the division. But it's not outside the realms of possibility.
So yeah, the really interesting one with the schedule, because would anybody be particularly shocked if we hit Week 18 and the Dolphins are sat there 10-6 because they pick up losses to the Cowboys, they pick up a loss to the Ravens, and the Bills are sat there 10-6 because, as you say, it's the Chargers, and the less said about them, the better. Kev can talk to us about them in a minute and the issues they're facing, and then everybody's seen the absolute. I don't even know how to describe New England this year. I'm genuinely lost for words about how poor New England are this year. So those are two games that, not like, talking as, I'm not a Bills fan, but talking as a fan or anything like that. They're just two games that the organisation's looking at and going, we lose them, that's an upset. That's something wrong happened. As opposed to the Dolphins, who are looking at their two going, these are Super Bowl contenders we're playing. We're sat there up against teams that are looking at the postseason and they're not there to make up the numbers. Ravens are looking for that number one seed in the AFC. Cowboys, yes, they didn't do well last night, but they are looking for that number one seed in the NFC. And I'm sure Kev will have something to say about that idea later. But this again, we were talking earlier about that Vikes Green Bay game, that's going to be a big decider. This could be an absolute decider of who's going to make or not make the playoffs potentially, because the AFC in general is really, really strong for playoff teams. It is, okay, I don't see it as likely, but it's possible a 10-win team doesn't get in. So, look, what do we think? Who do you think? So, tell you what, end of the year, put it around the room. Who tops the East? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Miami or is it going to be the Bills? Who wants to jump in?
I'll jump in first.
Go for it.
I'm giving it to Miami because there's stuff in the Cowboys next week.
And this comment is in no way brought to you from an Eagles fan. Well, this is what we were talking about before we came on air. Next week's game is going to be hilarious because, as we keep saying, Miami can only beat bad teams and Dallas can only beat bad teams. What happens when they meet? Is it 0-0? Calling it now. Get the mortgage on it. 0-0 game.
I know we're talking about the AFC East here, but the other thing to think about is that game is in Miami, and the Cowboys are unbeaten at home. They're now 3-4 on the road, which that's a big consideration for when they go down to Hard Rock, admittedly in the fairly mild weather you'd expect. But the big thing for the Cowboys is, Dak said after the game, Cowboys had actually clinched before the game kicked off for a playoff spot. But this is a team that's focused on achieving more than just getting into the playoffs. I've got to say, they could really use a home game, if they're getting into the playoffs, because the signs aren't looking great when they travel.
Liam, what about you? What do you see? How do you see this shaking out? Because this is a division it's a division of two halves. The bottom half, it's meaningless, but the top half, it's interesting.
No, yeah, I think it's, as you kind of alluded to, it's going to be an interesting run-in, and as like Gav said, obviously the Cowboys have only got one home game left, and it's against the Lions, which, okay, the Lions have been up and down a wee bit, but they can certainly put up a score on a week like this week. So it won't be an easy game by any stretch, even if it is the Cowboys at home. It's not, and then they end with Washington, which another divisional game. You never know what happens in a divisional game, though. To be fair, so yeah, it's. Yeah,
go on, make a decision, and don't be a cupboard.
Who's taking it? I still think Miami will take the division over the Bills. I think overall.
Right, we've got 2 for Miami. Gav, I'll come back to you for yours because you didn't give me a decision. Shane, what about yourself? What's your big take on the East this year?
So let's just
move towards the business end there.
Simplify this a wee bit then. So week 18, Ravens are playing Dolphins. Weeks 16 and 17, the Ravens have got who?
Ravens games.
So Miami
Ravens. No, so the
Ravens. Bills. Who have the Bills got?
Yeah. So Bills are going. Yeah. They've got Chargers, Pats. Then they finish out with the Dolphins.
Right. So you've got Chargers and Pats, and the Dolphins have got the Cowboys and the Ravens.
Yep.
Well, I think the Cowboys are going to win, and I think the Bills are going to win both those games. But I think that the Dolphins will beat the Ravens, and that will get them. They need to win one of those 2 games to get top spot, and I think it's going to be against the Ravens. So I'm going with Kev. Right. Dolphins.
Okay. Dolphins. Right, Gav, what are you? Are you feeling the fishy fun times?
So I think we need to just check the maths here a wee bit, because the Dolphins are 2 games up. However, the Bills have already beaten the Dolphins this season. So if they win at Hard Rock, then that means that the Dolphins will actually need to win their other 2 games to still clinch the division. And I don't get me wrong, Miami is a good team and the Bills are on the road, but they are the team with momentum.
You're right. I didn't address actually who would win week 18, Gav.
Yeah.
Out of the Bills and the Dolphins. And that's in Miami, isn't it?
It is in Miami.
Well, I've just put myself right on the line here. I think the Dolphins will take that as well.
See, this is where this is why I love this time of the year. I love the playoff permutations. I love it when you sit and you be right. This is what we need in order to get through. We need the following results from the following 15 teams, and that means we make the playoff push. I'm back in the Bills. I'm back in the Bills here. Genuinely think the game with Dallas could go either way. I think it absolutely depends which Dallas turn up. Bills, I see them losing to the Bills at last game of the season, but I particularly see them losing to the Ravens, which galls me to say, because I really need the Dolphins to beat the Ravens if the Browns are going to take them off. But yeah, I'm on Team Buffalo. I called them as my early season Super Bowl pick. I am declaring the window is back open. This window has been open and shut both times and anything else. This is an electronic window. It just keeps moving. I'm Team Buffalo with this, and that's got nothing to do with the fact that I've got Josh Allen in about 15 fantasy leagues. So no, I'm going Team Buffalo. Right, okay. So we went from 2 teams who have got exceptionally lofty playoff ambitions to 2 teams who don't. So it was a hell of a game, even though it was 2 teams who are definitely not contenders this year by any stretch. Kev, talk to us about. It was one of the. I was about to say Saturday games, but it wasn't. It was it Thursday night?
Thursday night, yeah.
Yeah. So it was Chargers playing against the mighty Las Vegas Raiders. Do we get to call them mighty now after that game? I don't really know where I stand.
It was a mighty score they put up, but yeah, I think when you asked us a week or two ago, Brian, to talk about the playoff picture and the teams that had an outside chance, and you mentioned both of these teams, I think I was kind of shaking my head and lost for words because I didn't really know what to say about either of them. Two teams who their playoff hopes pretty much dead. And they needed revived. And after both 5-8 heading into the game, after Vegas's 3-0 defeat at home last week to the mighty Vikings, you just wondered what we were going to see. It's a Chargers team that's struggling. No Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert on IR. So I wasn't really expecting much, to be honest. And both backup quarterbacks. We've got Aidan O'Connell versus Easton Stick.
Right, who could have honestly named Easton Stick as an NFL quarterback before that game, by the way? Did anybody honestly say that they could have said, oh, Easton Stick, he's a backup with Chargers? No chance.
No. But, I mean, the tail of the tape for the two quarterbacks. So O'Connell was 20 out of 34 attempts, 248 yards and 4 touchdowns. Pretty decent. Easton Stick was actually 23 off 32 attempts for 257 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. So looking at that, you would think pretty even game, or so you would think. Obviously, the final score ends up 63-21 to the Raiders. And it was pretty much, you would think the Chargers are going to struggle missing Herbert and Keenan Allen as well, and a few other players on offense. But actually, it was, they did struggle a bit on offense. There was a lot of turnovers, but on defense, they were dreadful. So the game starts off. We had Zamir White punching it in from a yard after a long opening drive, and the Chargers get possession, fumble the ball. Stick fumbles on their own 40-yard line, turn it over, and then it's punched in for another. It's a 30-yard touchdown pass to Trey Tucker. From there, towards the end of the first quarter, another fumble. This time, Joshua Kelly fumbles running the ball, and they score again. And then, the start of the second, the Chargers finally look like they're maybe starting to get their game together. They force a punt from the Raiders, and the punt is caught and then stripped. Possession turns over on their own 25 or something like that, and then that's taken to the end zone again for another score. So from there, the Chargers were pretty much dead and buried, and they just struggled to get going on offense, and their defense just couldn't stop the Raiders. So I think there was 8 different touchdown scorers from the Raiders, which from a Raiders point of view, after that dreadful game last week, obviously that's the perfect response. The ball was getting shared around, everybody was getting targets, everybody was getting carries, and everything that they tried seemed to come off. So that'll be good for them and give them a big lift. They even had 2 defensive players getting in on the act. There was a John Jenkins 44-yard fumble return, and then Jack Jones a 16-yard pick six at the end to round off their scoring. So a great day at the office for the Raiders. Exactly what they needed after that shocker of a game last week. But the Chargers, it was really, really bad, and their season looks absolutely dead. They're still mathematically in with a shot at the playoffs, but I think that's their season done and dusted. And even although the Raiders responded well to that last week, moving up to 6-8, realistically, I don't think that they've really got much of a chance still, but it will please their fans seeing a game like that off the back of the donut that they put up last week.
It's one of the ones that for the coaching staff, you must reckon that they're like delighted. Obviously, you put up 63 points is magic. You must be raging, but that you went the week before and you posted nothing for them. It's not like you're talking about it's a Patrick Mahomes-less Chiefs. So yeah, they struggled in offense. Then he comes back the next week, and yeah, it's all back and it all clicks. Fundamentally, the same two teams that went out, they've not had any massive injury concerns over the past week. So, don't get me wrong, yeah, the Chargers have got their injury concerns, as you mentioned. You've got Herbert, you've got Allen. They don't play defense. It's wild. But I suppose the big one for this for me, and I suppose it's one of these stats that coaches talk about a lot: turnover. And that is it. Turnover ratio in the game, 5 turnovers for the Chargers. They lost 4 fumbles. They chucked the 1 pick. Raiders, clean football. No turnovers at all. 5-0 in that ratio. This is where I chuck the Chargers defense a bone, I suppose. Even if you have got a defense that's playing well, if you are on the field so much, if your offense can't stay on, then what can you do? There's really, really limited. I suppose.
Also, when you're coming onto the field, when you're coming out onto the field on your own 40, your own 30 as well. You don't have much chance to get a stop. A couple of plays and you're right in your own end zone. The one bright spot for the Chargers was Joshua Palmer coming back. He's back off IR. He's back in the side. He scored a 79-yard touchdown. Albeit consolation. When they're already well beat, but that's a positive for them.
Right, I'll chuck this one out to the room just for a delightfully meaningless question. So, run-ins for the pair of them. Raiders, they've got the Chiefs, they've got the Colts, and they've got the Broncos. They are sat on, this is where I grab them again, so they are sat 6-8. Chargers sitting there 5-9. They've got the Bills, the Broncos, and the Chiefs. I don't think anybody would disagree that the Chargers are done. Do the Raiders have a chance? Is there a chance? Can anybody see it? Does anybody want to put their neck out there and say, I believe in Las Vegas in January?
I would leave that window closed the way it is.
No, I don't think you're going to get anyone to bite on that one.
Nope.
Under the bite. It was worth asking.
If I can just take one quick other comment for this game. I mean, Kev called it out. Jack Jones did get a pick 6. But Jack Jones got a pick 6.5. I mean, that was a cornerback blitz that he just kind of swiped the ball out there, one hand on his way to the quarterback. That was obscene.
It was at some speed as well. It was rapid.
I remember Laz, it was one of the plays I actually did. I caught that live. That must have been, I must call it about in Red Zone Live. And it was like, the commentators at the time mentioned, it was like, that was as if he was in the offensive huddle. He knew that pitch out was coming before the offense knew that was what they were going to do. And yeah, it's always nice when it's a big one hand and he was away. But yeah, it was one of those games we had to talk about because you don't see 63 points going up every week. Which, surely that was Scorigami. I don't know if anybody's checked that. I sometimes keep an eye on the Scorigami Twitter account. Surely 63-21 hasn't happened before. I'm
going to say I think it probably has happened before just because they're multiples of 7.
Yeah.
There's no weird safety in there. Yeah, there's not a safety or a missed conversion or something. Yeah, it feels nice round numbers, even if it is a rare one.
I can confirm it was a Scorigami.
It
was. I've managed to find. Thankfully, the chart is very quick and easy to find, folks. So, 2 minutes on Google. You too can check Scorigami's at your leisure. It was indeed Scorigami. So there you go. First time that one's happened. Right, okay. Thank you very much, guys. We are going to move on and we're going to put this week in the rear view. So now, normally we would go around and we would talk about every single game. Rather than that, I thought we would just float it out there for just your general kind of thoughts. Because there were some of the games, how do I say this delicately to some fan bases? Some of your teams are irrelevant now. Yes, Carolina, I'm looking at you. So some of the teams are maybe not quite as much to play for anymore. That's maybe a nicer way of saying it. So rather than that, I thought we would stick it out there for bits from any of the games that we caught over the weekend that really jumped out at us. I'm going to be sneaky and jump in first to get my wee Browns bit in. And I'm not even going... No, I'm going to talk about that as well. So we need to enjoy at the end where Justin Fields actually connected with a Hail Mary. And that should have won the game. But Darnell Mooney thinks he plays for Kansas. With how he somehow spilled that one, I don't think anybody understands how he managed to have that on his stomach in the end zone right at that moment, and it's still spilled out, and the glorious Cleveland Browns walked away with the victory. But that wasn't actually the big moment for me in that game, because this is where, and I want to see if I can quickly grab the yardage of it. The big moment for me that it really told you something was the Bears going for a fourth down conversion when they had a reasonable shot at a field goal, and it was right at the death of the half. It would have been a 55-yarder. It would have been a big field goal, but rather than that, they went for the Hail Mary. And right, okay, it was technically picked, but nobody counts picks from Hail Marys into the end zone. Why not give your kicker the chance? That was I was watching that at the time, thinking, if I'm a Bears fan, I'm raging. At that point, it's a tied game. That puts you into the half. You're receiving the first possession, the second half, and it would put you in 10-7 ahead. Why are you trying to force that through? So yeah, that was I don't know how much of the glorious Cleveland Browns you boys caught, if any of the bits of that he's enjoyed or just enjoyed the thought of me being happy, because that's obviously what he's lived your Sundays for. It's just trying to think of Brian inside his house being happy with himself.
It just means less messages.
Think about that. Sounds weird.
Yeah, it just means less messages in the WhatsApp group because you're not complaining as much. I think that's all it summarizes with it.
Yeah, so this is like a dear listener. It's worth noting that I do dominate about 95% of the messages in our group chat on Sundays with running commentary of all things Cleveland and my displeasure normally at what's going on.
I was going to say this is a nice weekend because I think we've the Bears were real kicking boys for us earlier on in the season, and they didn't come away with the win. But I think they have clawed back a lot of respect over the last couple of weeks, and yeah, could have stolen it, but in the end, it was a big win for the Browns.
Yeah, they're almost the definition of a fun and frisky team, because they do. You just never know what you're going to get out of them, because then you see just these. Okay, there weren't too many. The weather wasn't great in Cleveland either, and there wasn't a lot of like big crazy plays. Both defenses were pretty on top throughout, but they are a team that's got a kind of crazy play in them, which is always entertaining. So, what about any of the other games of the weekend, chaps? What are some of the big bits that you've enjoyed across the league?
I'll say Rams 28, Commanders 20, and it's Cooper Cup starting to do Cooper Cup things again.
Does it get anything to do with the fact that you have him in fantasy, Kev? Or is it a combination of that and the Commanders losing?
Well, do you know what? Fantasy's irrelevant to me, thanks, Brian. I'm out for another year, thanks to...
I wasn't even going to go there.
3 years on the bounce, losing to you in the playoffs. So, yeah, I'm done with fantasy, thanks. It's I either need to quit fantasy or quit this podcast. I can't keep doing both.
Oh, it's a glorious game, fantasy football. Yeah, again, that was for exactly as you say, Cooper Cup doing Cooper Cup things, and not even so much because he put up 111 yards, touchdown, great day out. But again, the nature of some of the catches and some of the kind of the yards after the catch, the working his way through tackles and all the rest of it was very reminiscent of a couple of years back when he lifted the Triple Crown, which was obviously an incredible year. What about the rest of these boys? What things did we enjoy for around the league? particularly those of you who had nothing to enjoy from football, given your own misery.
I suppose I was going to touch on Laporta, 3 touchdown games,
Yes.
the Lions, another solid week for him. Is he now up and coming tight end 1 for the years to come? We shall see. That was a kind of impressive win against, I suppose, an on-form Denver team, I suppose, if you want to call it that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and definitely, particularly for, because I remember waxing lyrical about this a lot about the optimism around the rookie tight ends coming into the year. And it's not a position that is easy to come in and play. It's, from a rookie perspective, it's probably one of the harder positions in the game to come in because there's so many responsibilities. It's not just the receiver, it's not just blocking, it's not just running. There's a lot going on. And yeah, he's absolutely smashing it all year. He sat on for the year, 9 touchdowns for the year, 758 yards, which, rookie tight ends, it's absolutely respectable, really incredibly good numbers. Stuff you love to see a wee bit of it. It's a new player coming into the league as well. It's always nice seeing new faces that you can kind of grow to get exceptionally upset at your friends about when they snipe you in a fantasy draft and steal them ahead of you from one turn. What about Shaney, Gav, with yourselves? Any big bits for any other games that you particularly enjoyed this week?
I don't know about enjoy, but I've got to say it looked like we were in danger of getting a tie in Nashville yesterday with the Texans and the Titans. That looked like a game that nobody really wanted to win for a long time. And eventually the Texans grabbed a critical field goal just with seconds left in overtime. After, it should be said, Singletary had a touchdown called, what he thought was a game-winning touchdown. I think the final graphic had even popped up on the screen, called back for a holding penalty. But I guess, that's a Texans team that was without Stroud. Tank Dell's obviously out. Nico Collins was out. I mean, it wasn't pretty, but it was next man up. So, I think Noah Brown was your leading target. Dalton Schultz had a big game, big catch there. So, Texans, I think they are our fun and frisky number 1 team on the Gridiron Crew. They're alive and well, and the other thing is they're on the same records as the Jags now.
Yep.
Both 8 and 6.
That entire division is wide. Well, not entire division. The division, taking top of the division is wide open. Was it not in this game? Now, this is not, somebody can correct me. Was it not in this game where somebody was running in with the ball, touchdown, secure as far as they were concerned, the ball out to the side, and it got batted out of their hand on the half-yard line? This is when I'm now trying to desperately remember what game this happened in.
I think that was Bucks Packers.
Yeah,
was it Bucks Packers?
But it still counted. It's still a touchdown.
Yep.
Don't remind me, Brian. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not sorry. But yeah, you need to love it. You need to love Case Keenum appearing from nowhere to put up a perfectly respectable game. Shows you why guys like Case Keenum and some of the other kind of more veteran backups are still kicking about the league, because they can kind of step in with relatively little prep time and step up. Kenny, what were you to round us off with this segment, mate? What was your kind of other game of the weekend that you just took a wee bit of joy, a wee bit of pleasure? None. He hated all of it. He was so simmered from watching his beloved Vikings lose. There was no joy for him to take. That, and he's somebody else that's lost to me or losing this week to me in fantasy as well. It's not just Kev. Okay, I'll save Sherry's blushes. Right, okay. We are going to move on. Our last kind of couple of bits, so just try to represent or show a bit of respect to some of the individual talent on show over the course of the week. So our nominations for our cruise missiles, who we think crushed it, and Kev is going to tell us all about who balled out this weekend and what his big play of the week was. Cruise missile nomination, guys. I'm going to, again, I'm shamelessly sneaking in early before somebody steals this one out from under me. Right at the start of the Miami game, we had a mega touchdown. Everybody was so worried going into this game. There was no cheetah. We've got no Tyreek. So is that going to mean that the Dolphins have got nothing on offense? They're going to be left wanting. Well, when you have a penguin, it doesn't matter if the cheetah's not there. So massive touchdown to to Waddle. I'm just trying to find the yardage of it, but it was blooming huge. 60 yards. Huge play for their third touch. No, sorry, not a third touchdown. Their second touchdown on the day. 60 yards, absolute bomb. Found Waddle wide open. Nobody anywhere near him. So that is my shout for Cru's Missile of the Week. Shaney, I let you slip out of the last bit because you looked all sad. What about this? Who was your Cru's Missile of the Week? Who's your big touchdown strike that you just loved watching?
Baker Mayfield. Come on. 381 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and that first touchdown to Mike Evans was an absolute bullet, and that just set him up. It oozed confidence for the rest of that game. He absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, and he's as a unashamed Baker lover, he is 100% a confidence player. You got a confident Baker, and he can achieve scary things. Brilliant shout, Baker to Evans. Kev, what about yourself? Who's your nomination for your Cru's Missile of the Week?
Do you know, I told you guys earlier, I made the mistake of having a few beers watching Red Zone. And I recall like really enjoying quite a few throws that I saw this week, but struggling to remember who was doing the throwing and who was doing the catching. So I will say that Cooper Cup 70 odd yard touchdown. I'm going to go with that one.
Okay, I like the idea of that. I was mildly inebriated and enjoyed many throws. I found it difficult to choose. Gav, coming to you, mate. Your Cru's Missile.
Do you know what? Actually, I think I'm going to give Kev a wee bit of credit because obviously he's been remembering all the right things. Because for me, that Cooper Cup strike from Stafford, I think it came in 62 yards down the left sideline. It was an absolute bullet, and yeah, that's also my Cru's Missile of the week.
Two for the Stafford Cup connection. Rounding it out, Liam, what was your Cru's Missile candidate?
I'm going to give you credit here, Brian, for your team. Cooper's catch and run down the sideline, tiptoe like tightroping all the way down. It was an awesome throw from Flacco, just precise action, and obviously a lot of yards after the catch, but it was a very nice touchdown conversion.
I genuinely think that tight open was Cooper still being bitter about the one from earlier in the season when he was stepped out and he didn't, and he got the whistle blown on him. It was just furious. So he made absolutely certain that he was there. Right. Okay. So from that to our nomination for players who crushed it, and you know what? I'm going to open the floor on this and say who wants the low hanging fruit. I'm going to share this nomination because I'm going to agree with it. But who wants to take the low-hanging fruit for the week of if this person, particularly if they were on your fantasy team, they likely helped you? Who is our player for Big Crusher of the Week?
I'll take him then. Go for it. CMC.
Yeah, absolutely incredible
I'll
performance. CMC this week, he's something else. When CMC is fit, is almost unplayable. It's devastating how good he is. Receiving and running. It's just frightening.
Even when he goes into a sore knee and comes back in, he's still devastating.
Yeah, even banged up. Now I'm going to come to you last because I know yours isn't a wee bit interesting. It's a bit different from what we would normally do with this bit. Liam, what about yourself, mate?
Well, he didn't have high running yards overall, but I've got a shout out to Mostert for his 2 touchdown game, and now given the singles. I think he's got the single season record for touchdowns for Miami now. So I suppose he needs a nice pat in the back. Well done to that. He's been kind of awesome all season, hasn't he? So yeah, another 2 touchdown game.
And I put him on my bench in fantasy. Right, Gav, coming to you, mate. Who crushed it for yourself?
Well, I think maybe go for an alternative view here. The success of the Lions seems to live and die by this guy, Jared Goff. 5 TDs, no interceptions. He was also your fantasy QB1 of the week, with 1 game to play, admittedly, Kev. But yeah, I think we give the guy a kick when the Lions lose, and certainly gotten back to form this week.
Yeah, you can't argue with it. And Shaney, to round us off before we hand over to Kev for his balled out of the week, who is your shout for who crushed it this week?
I was going to go with the Raiders defensive unit, just as a whole. Okay, they conceded a bunch of points, and I've probably got Jack Jones tinted goggles on, but it was so pretty. And what, they had another fumble recovery as well running for a touchdown, didn't they?
Yeah.
They're going to be flying high after that. I enjoyed it. Brought a smile on my face. They absolutely balled out.
Yeah, that was the Jack Jones pick was wild. It was so good. Right, okay, Kev. Over to you. 2 balled out this week.
Yeah, so one of the many plays that I enjoyed this weekend that I still remember after I woke up and sobered up was the touchdown that was thrown to Devontae Adams by Jacoby Myers in that game that I covered. So a little trick play which I always enjoy seeing. The ball was handed off to Myers, who then turned and chucked it into the end zone for Devontae Smith. So that was my balled out of the week.
As a belt, I love a trick play. Like, it's one of the things about the league that's just fantastic when all of a sudden you've just got random players lining up in odd places. You know, right, what's exactly going to happen? We tried it once actually with Flacco and no one bought it. We lined Flacco up once at wide receiver, and funny enough, no one believed it was a reasonable choice. Right. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Right. Before we actually wrap up, as always, it is time for our statistic of the week. And I'm going to chuck a bit of love Kevin Stefanski's with this one. So, the Browns are sat at 9-5. We have got a really serious shout of winning the AFC North, and it has been well documented that we're on our 4th quarterback of the year, which is an absolutely outrageously challenging thing for any team to have to deal with. But statistic of the week is not just to do with the quarterback being out. 26% of the Browns' salary cap is currently on IR. That is how extensive the injury list in Cleveland is. And this isn't even one where it's really heavily shaded by Watson being out and obviously his contract, because this year is the last year of his contract being kind of reasonable. Next year's when it becomes the ridiculous 60 million hit or something like that in the cap. I can't remember what it is. So yeah, there's your statistic of the week. Even with 26% of the salary cap sat on IR, Cleveland Browns have still managed to make it to 9-5, and Stefanski better be in my shout for Coach of the Year. Do you know what? I actually believe it. That's the scariest thing. I'm not even at the wind-up now. Right. Okay. Well, that is going to bring our review of all things Week 15 to a close. Now, despite the small matter of the Eagles taking on the Seattle Seahawks tonight, that is where we are going to call it this evening. Now, remember as I meant to say, the preview crew, sadly, they were 100% on IR last week. So we're very sorry that we didn't have a preview crew for you folks, but your set up for all things Week 16 will begin on Thursday with the refreshed and healed preview crew ready to get you rolling into the festive season. Now, remember, you can keep in touch with the crew. You find us on X at Irn-Cru. We are on Insta, grid_iron_crew. Stick Irn-Cru into YouTube, stick it into Threads, wherever you get your podcasts from, you can find us there. All that remains for me is to say to the guys, thank you very much. Shaney, it has been far too long since we've had you on, sir. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for going easy on me.
Yay. Kev, as always, a pleasure, sir. And who knows? Do you know what, Kev? One special for you as we're signing off. Score prediction for the evening.
I'm going to go for a blowout Eagles win for a change. Let's go 42-17.
Jeez, that is a blowout. Right, there you go. Get yourselves out of the bookies, folks. Kev's called it. Gav, thank you very much for joining us tonight, mate.
Good to be back. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, team.
Absolutely. And Liam, rounding us off for the evening, sir. Pleasure to have you on again, mate.
Indeed, always a pleasure to chat. Always good to chat football.
And from me, the Conscience of Cleveland, we will catch you all next week for our review of all things Week 16, folks.